So thank you for having me. Thank you to ADB. Thank you to our fellow speakers. I know you're very tired, but as I said, I just wanted to use this opportunity to encourage you about something. I'm Arlene Amarante. I've met practically half of you. I work for a small company called Microsoft. I've been working for about 30 years, so just about your age, I started to have a vision of my life. So yes, I was 16, I've been working for 30 years, and I've always been an outlier. I wanted to be able to do things differently, not for the sake of being different, but because I wanted to create a world that's going to be different, that's going to benefit more people. So I hope that this opportunity that you've experienced today, which is not given to many, that you use it wisely, right? I was told to tell you why I work for a company like Microsoft. I don't have a computer science course or a degree. I have a journalism, marketing degree, took up my MBA in INSEAD. I have a technology entrepreneurship course in Stanford. But that's about it. My entire life has been all about marketing, having to bring products to people. And by some really good accident, I worked for companies like Motorola, Microsoft way back, and then the first internet giant called Yahoo. And then I just managed to come back to Microsoft this year. Why Microsoft? Microsoft talks about a certain mission. And their mission is they aspire to be able to empower individuals like yourselves and organizations in the entire planet to achieve more. So such a big word, right? To achieve more. And I think today you realize that you've been given, a list of things that ADB is focused on. 17. And I can tell you each and every item there is a really big concern that impacts all of us. And maybe it doesn't directly impact you, but impacts your friends, your country, and the world. And in the end, we live in the same planet, and we all have to be focused on helping everybody, right? So I'm here to also talk to you about this field the industry called technology. So, think about the fact that why technology? I know you have dreams to become maybe, an athlete, a marketing practitioner like myself, a salesperson, maybe even the president of the world. But technology is something that you will never be able to escape anymore. It's everywhere. It's something that exists in every industry. So my wish for all of you is to not shy away from technology, but to embrace it. Because the 17 things that we just discussed for the past how many days, you're gonna need technology to drive it. So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which I think you've seen in the video, is about gender equality. So a lot of folks think about technology or the IT world as a man's world. Yes? Yes, so yes, that is a no answer, sure. So, but there is a stereotype that exists. So my other wish today is that you become open to the fact that you can, if you're a woman, you can be part of this technological advancement, this IT industry. And if you are a man, I hope and I laud you to open opportunities to both sides to both genders, men and women alike. Primarily because diversity in many research studies have shown has a correlation with higher revenue, higher breadth and depth in terms of distribution, and even increases in share of market. So, and diversity is not just about gender. It's about age, it's about race, it's about ethnicity, it's among so many things. But I hope today you start looking at least one dimension of this SDG and one dimension of how you as youth can help in the world that you're about to venture into. So there's so many things that are changing in the world today, right? We talk about, for instance, waking up to an alarm clock many years back. Nowadays, people don't even have watches. They probably have watches as an accessory. But one thing that wakes them up would be a mobile phone, right? Another change is the fact that, okay, I grew up using this. We have like floppy disks to like store information. But who among you know that storing information in these kinds of devices would actually be very, very dangerous in terms of security and privacy? Okay? Transfer of information in those kinds of tools actually puts you at a risk. And if you're working for a company, that puts your organization at risk. If you're working for government, that puts the entire country at risk. Right? So now we have what you call today, which is called cloud. And we store everything in the cloud. Then we think about how, I don't know if you guys have ever seen a cassette tape, but we grew up listening to music in a cassette tape, which evolved to become a CD or some other thing like a laser disc or what have you. But now you have everything in the same gadget, which is your mobile phone. So you can listen to music 24/7 if you want to. So all of these changes are happening, and there's no stopping it. The question there is that what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to capitalize on technology to change the world? To think about these 17 SDGs that you've been learning for the past how many days? So one example of which as well is gaming. I'm sure you guys are into gaming. In my time, we go out in the streets and we play. Or if you're like a little bit rich, you probably have something like a console and you play with it. But today, it's different. And let me show you why it is different. Oops. Oops. So in the past, it's about connectivity. But now, with virtual reality, it's about immersing in the same world. So if you're playing Minecraft, think about being part of the entire game. Being immersed in the game yourself. It's fun, right? But see, the merits of being immersed is that goes beyond gaming and all of the things that we talked about, music, etc. Think about if you're a doctor. Wouldn't you want to experiment on something using virtual reality than having to test something on a live person? So there's so many benefits to technology. Technology will always be relevant as there will always be complexities that need to be solved in today's world. And that's what we have today, problems, right? So most of these problems are solved with the aid of technology. So when you start to talk about information technology, you hear this buzzword about cloud and connectivity and all those things, but you also think about roles. Most of the time, you come across titles such as these: computer engineer, system administrator, web developer. You can name all the titles that you want in the IT world, but there's only one thing that we really have to call ourselves. And this is, we are problem solvers. And that's the reason why I'm sharing it with you. Because these problems cannot be solved by adults alone. These problems cannot be solved by women alone or men alone. It needs a certain diversity. It needs to start as far as your age are concerned. Think about all the best technologies in the world. Most of them nowadays were designed, developed, concocted by very young people. So imagine yourself being in that position to change the world. So we are problem solvers. So going back to what I talked to you about gender equality, women in the technology industry, 30% out of like the top largest technology company, and just have like 30% women in their organization. What does that say about creativity when you have 70% male managing the organization or directing technology and solving the world's problems? Think about the world's, the top 250 Fortune companies. Only 20% are chief information officers. But think about the fact that this world is made up of both men and women. This world is made up of young and old and different races, different ethnicities. I mean, look at this panel. How many are Filipinos? Look at yourselves. I can think of so many ways to think about the various ways that we are actually diversified. So do you put the pressure on one area to just solve the world's problems? This is really what it's all about. So one of the women that has actually stood out against gender stereotyping, is Sheryl Sandberg in her book Lean In. And this is exactly what we want to change. So, and we celebrate with her the ability of women to actually direct technology and change the world. And this is not the only time that this has happened. In fact, change that we've seen everywhere in the world is apparent in many parts of the world. We talk about perspective, ideas, creativity that can come from all sectors of society. For instance, purchase decisions driven by women. If you are driving the world's largest economies, then why don't you have a say in how things are going to be solved? Right? I'll give you an example in Argentina. In this particular case, this is a group of women who actually drove forensic technology to be able to solve crimes. In Kenya, they talked about a nonprofit organization that talked about having to they created an application whereby they're able to share to the rest of the world how they can actually solve the biggest problems in the world, including poverty. Then you have a country like Nepal, where a woman happened to have like an application, offered education, internet technology to be able to educate the young people there. And you can tell me like, Arlene, but this is like outside the Philippines. Ever heard of Mirna Padilla? She was a domestic helper. And she created an app so that the OFWs all over the world can actually be heard. Whatever problems they have, they're able to provide the avenue to be heard. So these are just examples of how women are able to change the world in some ways. But as I said, this is not about just directed to the women to stand up and just do the same things, but it's also directed to the men to provide the opportunities, to have equal opportunities to solve the world's problems. So, think about the world's biggest companies, Facebook, IBM, YouTube, HP, Microsoft. They're not necessarily run by men, right? And they're doing fantastic. And so this is my way of lauding each and every one of you to be aware of what's going on in every area of your lives. So yes, you're not yet working, you're in school, but this is the best time to think about gender equality. This is the best time to think about, how can I make a difference in this world? Somebody asked me a while ago in DigiGirls, what are the things that they need to do to be able to start, something, be able to make a difference when they graduate? How can they make a difference in terms of be able to use the technology around them? this is what I need to, this is my last slide. So I leave you with this. You've been here for many days, right? Somebody would always ask me, what's the secret or formula for success? I hope you read this book. It was done by Malcolm Gladwell. It's The Outliers, The Secret of Success. You need 10,000 hours to be a phenom. Not to be an expert, but a phenom. To be so freakingly awesome, to such a standout among your peers, that sometimes your first name is enough to tell people who you are. Peyton, Tiger, Venus, Kobe, Oprah. So I think today, your 10,000 hours begin. Thank you very much.